Good morning and welcome to City Hall. Dr. Harvey Potts is the pastor at Allen Chapel AME Church. He's going to lead us in the invocation. Afterwards, I'll ask Councilman Gary Mars to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please stand?
Let us pray. Our Father and our God, we come right now as humble as we know how, as a body. We come before the City Council and we lift the council up to you, and we pray your blessings upon them. We pray, oh God, that we this morning will have a sense of our calling as we are called to a higher purpose to serve the community. Not only are we called, but we pray, oh God, that we will be compelled to do what it is that we've been called to do. As we deliberate and as we discuss, we pray that we deliberate and discuss in a manner that will be for the betterment of the entire community. Not only are we called and not only are we compelled, but we ought to be committed. We pray that the mayor and the council and all who have come before this deliberative body will be committed to doing what it is we are called to do. This is a beautiful body, the City Council, where they come and discuss and relate to all of the things that go on within the overall community. But overall, we are all called to a higher power. So as we are called, compelled, and committed to doing what we are called to do, bless them and keep them. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll proceed with the council agenda. Draw your attention to item 3. It's office of the mayor and 2 appointments. All right, cast your votes. Appointments go through. On to item 4, it's the Journal of Council Proceedings. Item 4A is to receive the Journal of Council Proceedings for January 8th, and item 4B is to approve the Journal of Council Proceedings for January 2nd. Any comments or questions on the journal? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. On to item 5, which is request for uncontested continuances.
Mayor, I have several this morning on page 7 with dilapidated structures under item 8A1. Item C, 2409 Aurora Court. We ask that be stricken. The owner has removed. And then on to unsecured, item 8B1. B, 4913 Creekwood Terrace. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item D, 4733 Eastman Drive. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item F, 6207 Hillcrest Drive. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item G, 3308 South Kentucky. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item H, 6805 Lancer Lane. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item J, 915 North McKinley. We ask that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item Q, 4520 Northwest 12th Street. We ask that be stricken. There is a new owner. Item R, 2501 Northwest 14th. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item S, 1236 Southwest 16th. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item X, 500 Northwest 31st Street. We ask that be stricken. We need to re-notify. Item Z, 3105 Northwest 31st Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item double C, 4009 Southeast 45th Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item double E, 3114 Southwest 64th Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. Item double G, 1128 Northwest 84th Street. We ask that be stricken. The owner has secured. And moving to item D on page 8, item 8D, that's a amendment to the program implementation plan with the Oklahoma City Municipal Public School Trust. and we need to strike that because that'll be going to the school trust this afternoon. It was scheduled to go earlier, but they had to cancel their meeting due to lack of quorum, and so we'll strike that today and bring that back next week.
Okay. Any other requests for uncontested continuances? All right, let's recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority. There are 3 items. All right, comments or questions on the MFA? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Adjourn the OCMFA, convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority. 2 items. All right, comments about the PPA? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. We'll adjourn the OCPPA, convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. Claims and payroll. Cast your votes. Passed unanimously. Adjourn the OCEAT and reconvene the council meeting with the consent docket.
Mayor,
Yes, Skip?
I have I believe it's 6P.
P as in Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the resolution authorizing acquisition of property using Oklahoma City Capital Improvement Sales Tax Funds for the project M3R04, the Oklahoma River Whitewater Facility. And I have asked Mr. Mike Knopp if he would be so kind to come and share with us some of the updates as it relates to the Whitewater project, some of the benchmarks in reference to time, cost factors, and what the ultimate future of the Whitewater project was going to look like for the city of Oklahoma City and Ward 7. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. I've got a presentation I'll run through real quick that kind of gives everyone an update, and then we'll speak in particular to the Whitewater Center. First of all, we did receive some good news yesterday that the University of Central Oklahoma has issued a release that they are moving ahead with their boathouse project, and of course that facility will contain a music and arts venue within it, so they'll be moving ahead this year. And we expect similar things to come with the University of Oklahoma. Okay. I'm going to run through these initial slides. Everyone here is aware of where we've come, but I want to give you more of an update on where we are right now. I want to call your attention to this. This is sort of a layout of the campus, of how everything is developing in the Boathouse District, from the community fitness programming at the Chesapeake Boathouse, the Welcome Center events, and the Finish Line Tower and the Devon Boathouse, music and art and the UCO, high adventure and youth programming in the Sandridge Youth Pavilion, special events and university programming in their Division I program at OU, and then the Whitewater Center, and everything surrounding the Whitewater Center, which is what we will discuss. And then looking at the venue, all the different facilities that are starting to come into play. I will note that the Chesapeake Boathouse just completed its renovation, kind of enhancing some of the features or the programming that will start to occur as an attraction as the Oklahoma River continues to develop, as a rock climbing wall and other features that really complement what is happening in the Whitewater Center. I also want to mention that the Chesapeake Finish Line Tower and the Devon Boathouse were just recognized with the architectural awards, so we are getting some good, thanks to Rand Elliott, some great recognition in that regard. Sorry, I'm going here real fast, but I want to get up to our, and I do want to bring your attention again to this facility since it is moving ahead. We'll have the live music venue and the art gallery, and this is just to the west of the Whitewater Center, and you can get a view of that music venue within the facility, which will be overlooking the river. Also, this is well underway, the Blue Cross Blue Shield Adventure Zone. This pavilion structure is up right now. It's essentially we're enhancing the playground around that area. And as you're going to see as we go along, everything is really tied together. So we see this facility complementing the Whitewater Center and vice versa. This is going to be open to everyone. It will include, a lot of family attractions, everything is centered around getting kids active, really seeing this whole district become a center for health and wellness and adventure. And we expect this will be open in March. So not only does it include this playground that was originally there with a nice canopy over it, but it also has a youth ropes course and a youth zip line and a big, call it the cloud bounce, a big jumping element. So again, it's all about being active. And then we get to the Sandra Youth Pavilion, also moving ahead nicely with the Sky Trail feature. You can see on the north end of the building is the big, it's actually the tallest structure of its kind in the world, the Sky Trail. If you look towards the river, you'll see it. It's hard to miss now. It has really come up, and it's going to be a pretty thrilling feature. This is a view from the other side of the river. Later this year, we'll be building the zip line connection across the river and back. And again, you're starting to see with this facility, it's sort of embracing that adventure spirit that's going to come with the Whitewater Center, adding several features to the mix as we define the Boathouse District as an attraction. And this is what it looks like today, or yesterday. This is the Sky Trail. You'll go up a series of levels and go through a lot of challenges. It's open to everyone, and there'll be some options of how to get down. You can take a slide, the tallest slide in Oklahoma. You can zip line across the river and back. There'll be a free fall element, which will be safe but thrilling nonetheless. And then, and you can see these different features you'll climb through. And again, it's something very unique for the city and for the Oklahoma River. And that's a view from the bridge. Move on to OU. There's some renderings you may have not seen on this facility is that it comes together as we speak. Again, being a center for the university program, it's a very large program along with having university events, and again, that project is moving along. We get to the river projects and the stadium lighting. Of course, the river's down doing some Phase 2 improvements. You can see the lights in the picture that are going up. And the windscreen is also in the plans for this year. And then we get to the Whitewater Center. Let's see, there's some images here that are of the London course, which we have some similar features and similar designers that are involved in our venue. Of course, the total package is $60 million, but I want to call your attention to this, the Whitewater Center. The facility is going to be, of course, open to everyone. It's going to be featuring many different opportunities for the public to get engaged in a raft and a kayak. There'll be trails, there'll be other features that will really continue to encourage the idea of we're really building this diverse outdoor culture and really developing this Center for Health and Fitness. And there are, of course, other opportunities all around that facility to enhance whether it be additional, maybe there's a restaurant feature, maybe there's other things that eventually could come in around that project. I'm going to show a couple more things in a second. This is a very important connection that's taking place with the canal. So we'll have that link to Bricktown, and that's a concept that we'd like to, continue to enhance that. And now looking back,
if I can stop you for a second, can you go back to that? Because I think that's important, and I think some of the council hasn't seen that picture because you can't see it very well.
Right.
If you come down by the Chesapeake Boathouse and go in the parking lot, you just can't really see what's going on. And if you go over by the Land Run sculptures and look back the other way, it's not particularly visible. But this is an important link to tie downtown Bricktown, the canal, to the river and vice versa. And it's well under construction, and it's the primary reason that the river is down at this point in time. Obviously, there's a number of reasons. We're resetting the race course. We're running a sewer line across the river. We're working on some of the hydraulics of the dam. So we're doing about 4 different projects all at once while that phase of the river is down. But these pictures here are about as good as you're going to see because it's hard to see the progress on it right now. Even if you go down and look at it, you can't really see it. And these are pretty good. And so when this is done, you'll be able to have a nice pedestrian access to Bricktown from the river and vice versa. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is This is going to be, really important as we continue to define the river as an attraction, also for the events. And so the idea of being in Bricktown, maybe going to dinner, then getting to go on a zip line, we'll just walk down the canal is going to be pretty exciting. Eventually, whitewater rafting. So, and I want to call your attention. This is, of course, looking from I-35 down towards the Whitewater Center. There'd be some additional features that we are working on, an iconic boathouse facility that would serve that, the Whitewater Center. I also want to say around the Whitewater Center, this would be a privately funded element, so while the Whitewater Center is certainly publicly funded through MAPS 3, there will be some other enhancements that we're working on to again, further engage the community, kids, families, and, adding some water features, fountains. You see a flow rider, this is a surfing element, and so we think that would be just really complementing the whole idea of this being a real attraction for the community. And then this is kind of showing what's to come with the high adventure elements in the slide. This will be installed in April. This is a very unique slide. It will not be a water slide, but it will be very thrilling to get down from the top. And then we also, let me take you back here, have an idea for a mountain bike feature down there as well. So you're really rounding out many different sports and health and fitness activities. And then this is the Gateway Plaza, I call it. It's, the facility that you'll go through to get into the Whitewater Center. It could be many things, but one thing for certain is it's where you're going to go to get your, get your tickets for the raft or the kayak, but also change your clothes, have, locker rooms, but also complement, other facilities, perhaps a concession area, and then some opportunities, again, to enhance it with some additional funds that may allow it to have a restaurant or a retail element, a youth center. And we also see this as a very important connection between this major facility and attraction and what will come with the American Indian Cultural Center, perhaps a way to get from one place to the other through a river shuttle linking the two facilities together. And this is just what could happen in that area as we define that. But what's interesting about this Whitewater Center is you look down and you see this whole area. Straight down 6th Street, you're going to be looking straight towards the Whitewater Center. And this is a really unique design for a whitewater facility in that, there's multiple channels. It's all controllable. It's controlled by pumps. But the center channel is more of the slalom course, which you might have seen in the Olympics, but still rafts can go down that. And then the outer course is longer, and that will be kind of more of a wilderness run, so to speak, or a way that you take your raft and a lot of training or a lot of learning can take place. But all of that will there'll be a confluence of those two channels right by the building, and with that confluence of channels will create other features that we can have freestyle, where people can get in little playboats and do tricks and have fun, and it's something that over time our community will get, I'm sure, very engaged in. And but again, if you're concerned about getting in a raft or in a kayak by yourself, you can take a guided raft trip, and it'll be very safe and very fun. There'll also be some live music opportunities and other features to enhance the venue, and of course, area for parking and other needs to complement that. So, and then the youth pavilion, the actual building, we anticipate starting hopefully this year. We're still working on some fundraising on that. That's the Sandridge Youth Pavilion, and it will be a center for activity and youth programs. I just wanted to give you a quick update. We just finished the Santa's Adventures. That was, a lot of people came to the river to do the little zip line and other features, and that's going to, of course, be enhanced as we open these other attractions. The zip line across the river we think will be done by Memorial Day, which will be great. And then all these other activities, the Stars and Stripes River Festival, the Head of the Oklahoma will continue to expand. Next year we have the World Championship, the Marathon World Championship, and which will be a big international event. About 30 countries will be coming here. We were already being asked, and we're holding off, but asked about World Championship, cups, that kind of thing for whitewater. Obviously we want to get it done first, but we can see that interest is definitely there. And I also want to call your attention to this. All of this has generating a lot of interest in all areas of our community. Adaptive rowing and paddling We got a very fast-growing program. People who haven't really been able to do a whole lot of any kind of activity are getting in kayaks now, and it's been very successful, and that program is going to greatly expand this year. Team River Runner is a program that focuses on whitewater, and we're going to incorporate that into it. And then, of course, our youth outreach programs continue to expand, multiple schools, dragon boat leagues and racing, corporate teams, and then senior dragon boating, which has become real popular. We've got different senior centers that are coming down and dragon boating or taking fitness classes in the boathouse facilities, and you can see that, and they're having a great time. It's very accessible, and just a way for the folks to get active and enjoy the river like everyone else. And I also want to say in the paper today is an article about American Idol. I wanted to update everyone. We will be the focus of American Idol here. They haven't given us the exact date. They filmed in the Boathouse District, and we'll be the host of the show. Probably by the end of the month, we'll have the exact date here real soon. But it debuts tomorrow this season, and one whole episode of the show will be in the Devon Boathouse in the Boathouse District. So I think that'll be great opportunities for us to continue to promote the river. And then our River Sport Adventures will obviously expand with the Whitewater Center and the Sky Trail, but that's all about, we're really transitioning to this place of where the Boathouse District is really an attraction for the community, just like the zoo, many of the other great attractions in Oklahoma City, where you can bring your family, spend the whole day, but if you choose, you can get in a program, get in a class, get on a team. But it really is something you can come and spend the day with your family and have an adventure and burn some calories and have a great time. So that's my quick overview. Skip, do you have, Councilman Kelly, any questions?
Mike, first of all, before I ask any questions, you are truly an individual that had a vision for something that most people would never had even attempted. You used to be my training partner as far as running and long distance runs and marathons, and I remember when you would get finished running and you would say, well, I got to go out to OCU and work with the students. I asked you one day, what students? And you said, well, the rowing students, and I started laughing. And you had a commitment that Oklahoma City could be a major rowing club from one of the universities, which was Oklahoma City University. And I don't know how many students you had, but it is from that vision that we have this iconic program that's part of the city of Oklahoma City, all because of the vision of one person. And so to you, your family, your wife, and all the commitments that you've made, we are deeply honored to have you as part of the process of the city of Oklahoma City as it relates to these type of, and the health concerns, that it means so much to know that with this type of program that we have an integrated population throughout the city that can participate without major costs and not being prohibited because of funding, but they can come down and participate and enjoy the fruits of these programs from the policies that's been enacted by the citizens of Oklahoma City. And so, the navigation that you've made with the private industry is just absolutely amazing to see the different infusion of funds and participation from the corporate America, and we're just blessed. And I didn't know I was going to get this much information, and I didn't know that we were going to have the American Idol as part of the city of Oklahoma City. I would have got prepared and went down so I could audition for it, but is it too late? But thank you so much, Mike, for your presentation. And so when we look at the total cost right now, where we are in reference, where are we as it relates to the dollar amounts of this project?
Oh boy. Well, of course, MAPS 3 is $60 million, which we're continuing to generate to raise through the taxpayers. But the private investment, I'd have to do a quick tally, but we're probably in the $40 million range with just this is not the whole river, just in the Boathouse District itself, in terms of what is committed or what has already been done. So,
Thank you.
Mike, is the boathouse district built out in terms of the number of boathouses? At some point, I thought we had room for 5, and we've got 4, 2 built, 2 committed. Is there room for one more?
well, with UCO, the youth pavilion, we're kind of considering like a boathouse, so that essentially we'll serve that. And the Whitewater Center, one of those facilities I showed really will essentially serve the function of a boathouse. It'll be a little different than the boathouses that you see down there today. But that whole stretch will be pretty much built out. And but the issue with that is, number one, we actually do have some concerns about river traffic, believe it or not. So there's a point where, you know, we really have to manage that to maintain the safety and the integrity of the venue, but also we're using that opportunity to, like with OU coming on board, part of that will allow us to enhance the exchange boathouse so we can bring some more activity down into the western basin. So that will be expanded over time to kind of spread opportunities.
But there is opportunity, obviously, if somebody wants to do restaurant or
absolutely, yes,
some other private things. But
yes,
in terms of boathouses, we're probably maxed out.
yes, but we're still raising money for a couple of those slots. So one of the, for example, the Whitewater Center, the funding through MAPS 3 will include just, you know, we're still working on that, but enough to include part of the Gateway facility, and some private support could allow us to build that facility up and essentially be like a boathouse there. Yeah. So.
All right. Any other questions for Mike?
And the item today is a resolution of necessity that will allow us to purchase the land for the Whitewater facility. So that's the item that's on the council today.
All right. Mike, thanks for coming down today.
Thank you very much.
Skip, thanks for suggesting.
Thank you, Skip. Yeah, thank you.
And then, Mayor, we also have on today item 6Q is a site master plan for the fairgrounds. Don Douglas is here today to give us an update on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Our task for this first part of the fairgrounds arena, or the expo center, was to do a limited master plan. And as part of that master plan, we had to do several tasks. One is to look at the traffic, is to see what a 300,000 square foot building would do to the fairgrounds and how that would react. So we did a traffic study, and then we were going to look at where we placed the building. Once we placed the building, then what happened to the carnival and the rest of the things, the utilities that went with it. So this gives you just an idea. This is Gordon Cooper, and this is General Pershing, and this is May. So the very first thing we did was a traffic study, keeping in mind that during most events, other than the fair, the entrances on 10th Street are closed. So the main entrance to the fairgrounds is here on May, which gives a reason for security too. So we divided this into several projects, and the Phase 2 project, which is over here, was basically the construction of the building. The Phase 1 project, which we're talking about today, was this area. And that part, there's construction going out now, filling the old racetrack and building a drainage canal right here so that we can handle the runoff in the future. From the traffic studies, we developed a concept interchange. And what we found was that May Avenue would work. We didn't need any other additional openings, but General Pershing needed to be signalized. And so that is the concept that we've done in this area. Now, this project will be part of the landscaping project on May Avenue from Reno to 10th, which should be built or bid sometime in June of this year. So once we kind of knew what the traffic was, we moved to where the building should be. And we worked with the staff, and we tried several different locations. But really, for the building to function, it begins on a Gordon Cooper, which will be your main entrance, which also gives the front of the building. It then works with the buildings surrounding it, from the arena to the horse barns to the Cox Pavilion. And that way, this area begins to function together. And so once we had that in place, then we began to look at what happened during construction. And what we found is that this would be the building, this would probably be a staging area. Therefore, to take the carnival, we needed to do a parking area in here, and so that is where we begin to lay out. And as I said, there's construction out there now that fills this and does the landscaping for it. This slide is basically just to give you an idea of how much of the Midway and the fair gets displaced when the building's put in place, and why we had to find a place to put it. So, and this was the 2012 fair. We worked quite a bit as we developed the future site for the carnival with the setup during this year's fair. So we basically found that this would be the layout of the fairground in the future. And so then the parking is here. Oop. And so, oh, thank you. And then this area became where we had to put the water and gray water lines in regards to how we served the carnival and what was out there at this point. So this became our Phase 1 project. Pardon me. Back up here. So as I said, okay, now I'll move into budgets and I'll go from there. But the Phase 1 budget was $4.7 million. We've let contract, as I said, for $668,000, which leaves us $3.4 million. This contract will come back to the council to advertise for bids sometime in February, so that we're almost finished with the plans for it. So the Phase 2, the part of the building itself, this was the budget. What we found is because we can't do some of the utilities and the paving because of the staging area, then these are some of the things that will be in the Phase 2 project, which is about $2.4 million. And so this final kind of gives a breakdown of what we just talked about. The building itself, the staging area, which it is, then the new parking area, which will be here. And one of the things that is we included in that other area is this is additional parking that we will bid as an alternate under this next phase to see what the funding is and see if we can get the funding to do all this. This is going to be necessary to get the fair and the carnival back to a position of where it started. And so at that point, I'd answer any questions, Mayor.
Questions for Don? Don, will the fair just be impacted midway for 1 year, one seasonal year?
Basically, it will be impacted in 14 for sure. It depends on how fast they can move with the building and do it. But I think 14 for sure, and maybe 15, but we're hoping 14.
All right. So when the midway is relocated, that'll be its new permanent site?
Yes, sir.
It's not a temporary move?
No, it'll be permanent. When the building finished, the fair will move back, or the part of it will be back. Then where we had the parking and the utilities will be the permanent area.
And will the parking that you're building, will that increase the overall number of paid parking spots, or will it keep it where it is now, or how will it be affected?
If we can take the alternates, it's going to increase it. If we just build the basic, we're basically replacing the number, about 1,400 spaces that we lose in that area.
It depends on the budget and how much everything costs.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why we're doing alternates.
There won't be fewer parking spots,
right,
and there might be more.
And there might be more, and it gives, it will give the fair and the staff a lot, is using entrances on May and fixing it, a better security, because what we found is people coming up Reno and Del Mar were cutting up through the fairgrounds to get to 10th Street, which is a conflict with all the pedestrians and the movement that we had there. So this gives a better operation when we finish, for sure.
All right. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Don.
you, Mayor.
Larry, you had a comment on one of the members of the consent docket.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make a brief comment on item G, the professional services agreement with the Windsor Area Business Group. 3 representatives from the Windsor Area Business Group took time out of their busy schedules today to come down here and see this action approved. We have Jeff Groves from Copper Mart Bank, who's kind of the head of the Windsor Area Business Group, and then we have 2 neighborhood representatives, Don Hummer from Meridian Hills and Kim Lowe from Windsor Oaks. And this was born out of a vision that the neighborhoods had a number of years ago to try to do something with Northwest 23rd Street from I-44 to the west to the Bethany line. And it resulted in getting put on the city's capital plan a streetscape project, which is now in design, which the first phase of this, the bonds of $4 million, is supposed to be sold this year and construction to start. And this money is to help the Windsor Area Business Group get started and mobilize the businesses along the corridor to become a vibrant and growing part. It's part of our strategic Strong Neighborhood Initiative. Kim Cooper-Hart from our planning department and Russell Klaus have been very instrumental in helping out here. And you know, Mike Knopper was talking about how Santa Claus came to the river this year. Well, Santa Claus used to come to the Windsor Hills Shopping Center. But over the years, things have happened out there, and Santa doesn't have that on his radar anymore. And the goal of this business group is to put the Windsor area and Windsor Hills Shopping Center back on the map to make it a destination for neighborhoods, just like our river is going to be a destination for people who want adventuresome fun. So my compliments to our three representatives here, and we look forward to great things in the future coming from this particular area of town. Right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Pete?
Yeah, Mayor, on item R, just to comment, I have inquired recently about what was going to happen with regard to that detention facility, because it, like the one to the north of it along Lightning Creek, had a lot of really pretty watercolors about what it was going to look like when we got finished. And since it's been finished, it's really just been a holding pond and so I'm pleased to see that we're going to find some use for it that fits a little more like the drawings that we had when we were talking about doing it, about landscaping and about park-type use around it. And this is a really good step in that direction. I think that we're going to see some more things along Lightning Creek to the north here pretty soon that'll also make it be able to do the same thing. And I just want to comment that I get a lot of calls, especially from former councilwoman, my predecessor in this seat, Frances Lowry, who was all that area along Lightning Creek was something really important to her while she served on the council. So if she's watching today, well, she can take heart that things are moving along out there. Thank you.
Any other comments on the consent docket? All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Cast your votes, and it passes unanimously. Just one item on the concurrence today. Okay, comment on this item? All right, cast your votes. Passed unanimously. That moves us to item 8, which is items that require a separate vote. We start with a public hearing regarding dilapidated structures. Is there anyone here wishing to speak under any item listed under 8A? Has anyone signed up? All right, sounds like we're good to go. Cast your votes on 8A1, and it passes unanimously. Item 8B is a public hearing regarding unsecured structures. Is there anyone here wishing to speak under any item listed under 8B? And no one has signed up? All right, I hear a motion and a second, so let's cast our votes, and it passes unanimously. On item 8C, it's a revocable right-of-way permit to hold the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade, and we are fortunate to have someone who has shown up today that's going to help put on this event. Steve, come on forward. We'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Steve Schlegel. I'm with Schlegel Bicycles, 900 North Broadway.
Steve, this is the wrong event. Wrong time. Oh, it's not? Oh, you're in opposition of it. I thought you were here as the promoter of the event.
I'm sorry.
Quite the contrary.
Should I back up?
No, you're fine. Go ahead, and you want to speak on the parade itself.
Yes, and I'm actually accompanied today from a couple other retailers here, Alan Abijay with Blue Water Divers, and also manager for Broadway Wine Merchants.
Okay.
And additionally, I've also a recent appointee to the Automobile Alley Board. Basically, we're here on behalf of the proposed parade route and some issues that us as new retailers to the area of Oklahoma City are experiencing at present with kind of the growth of the city and, of course, the shared excitement of just a fantastic community, but also at the same time that we're now operating retail businesses, our ability to conduct business in a regular fashion. And presently, we're here to speak on behalf of the parade route and its impact it's going to have on several of the local businesses, specifically along Broadway, between 10th and 6th Street. And so, based on our past year's experience, it has been very detrimental to our business with significant impact on our business income. There's been a lack of proactive communication from this specific event, although we have had other events that we've had occurrences with that we've been trying to work with the promoters on. And I think the reason we wanted to come before the council today is to advise you guys of the changes that have occurred in this sector. And obviously, it's been the goal to really promote retail within the city and especially downtown. And so we're here to try to find a resolution to one of our problems. I've actually had some communication over the last few days with many of the area merchants and both retailers and then additionally law firms. I just got an email this morning from the Land Law Building and some of the experiences he's had controlling parking and his impact on his business as well. So again, these are all things that we're concerned with. I did a little research this morning in respect to this specific event and realized that looks like it was began promoting back in October 16th. I saw there was some event materials produced on their website and such. We've had no communication until a week ago that this was going to have an impact on our business. We are all open on Monday, which is, I believe it's just a week or so away from taking place, and no communication to the business owners that I'm aware of. We were fortunate enough to get communication from our landlords, but again, this is an impact that's going to have, in my case, $5,000 to $10,000 of loss of revenue. We've had issues with crowd controlling the stores. Broadway Wine Merchants makes note of the fact that they've had issues with being verbally assaulted and harassed. No access to the store. Had issues with merchandise and displays being broken. They've had to close their retail store during this event just to prevent issues of that type. So,
Did you contact the promoters back in October when they started advertising their route?
Well, that's the problem as retailers. We have our own agenda, and we try to be proactive, but I don't really feel like the responsibility should be upon us because we honestly don't know who is doing what. The only reason I found out about this is, again, with our landlords that had produced the application for the permit, and so that's why we're here. But I don't know what the protocol is if they're going to be trying to shut down the streets in our area. That I would assume that they would have to get some sort of the information to us as retailers, and we would love to work with them. I mean, we embrace what's going on down there. I have to really stress that. We like the evolution of the city. We're excited to be part of it. At the same time, we have to find a resolution. We worked with the St. Patrick's Day people that put on the parade there because that had an impact on our business, and fortunately it was very limited because it was a Saturday morning, I believe. We expressed our concerns. There was a reroute done, and we found a great resolution. But in this case, Broadway Avenue is being shut down from 10th Street all the way forward, and it's completely blocking us from both south and north traffic. Very limited access. That's specifically myself and the other retailers behind me's problem, but beyond that, there's also adjacent businesses with the law offices and a preschool on 4th and Robinson's having to close down. They're having to, again, all things that we would like to try to find a resolution to.
Steve, I really appreciate you coming down, and guys, thank you for being here. We know this has been, a bit of a challenge for the last couple of years when it was moved back to Broadway. I'm actually really disappointed that there isn't anybody here from the parade organizers to help address some of this as we're, facing issuing the permit. Chief City may be in the back, and we have worked.
He is in the building. I'm sure he can
here?
step,
Okay.
I'm sure he can
Maybe
step in.
Chief could come talk to us a little bit. We have tried this last year to work with the parade organizers and actually created a slightly different route, and had a meeting. Major Hill met with the group, and apparently the route was not their preferred access. And we also tried to limit the streets that were closed off for staging. Chief, would you mind coming to talk a little bit about the work we've done and tried to do with the parade route? We've got Steve Schlegel here, and Broadway Wine Merchants is here as well, and the diving shop along Broadway, and they're representing not just themselves, but all of the merchants along Broadway with some of the same concerns.
Right. The route that was used last year, obviously, I mean, any route you do is going to create some problems somewhere. So after we had some of the issues and some of the complaints from the business owners last year, we looked at a variety of routes within the downtown area, trying not to displace the parade, significantly, but at the same time trying to find a better route that impacts the businesses a little bit less. And so we did come up with some alternatives, and we did meet. We met with the organizers of the parade on several occasions and made some recommendations. Those recommendations were not what they felt like were not acceptable. And I know we had talked to Councilman Sayer on some of these different options. And so in lieu of getting some type of an agreement from the organizers to change that route, we're just going to have to try to do a better job if we're going to continue to have the route that it is, do a better job of policing that route and keeping some of the streets open or closed so it allows for better access, because that is the problem. It is a Monday. A lot of the stores along Broadway are still open, and I know it does impact them. And the staging areas, it's about probably 2 hours prior to that occurring, and we do know it does provide some inconvenience to some of the businesses. But in lieu of getting some agreement to change that route, because the routes that we did, actually, the alternatives were somewhat shorter. I could see some of the reasons why that the organizers didn't prefer that route, but again, it's unless we get short of getting some agreement, it's going to be the same.
Well, Chief, again, we don't have them here to talk about this, and I think moving forward, and maybe Josh, I think we need to get everybody in the same room. This is really, unbalanced with regard to what happens to the businesses along Broadway, and it's not just Broadway that's the problem. It's all of the side streets. We talk a lot about the grid these days, and the grid is completely taken out between basically 4th and 10th Street. They're closed all the way over to Walker to set things up, and it makes it extremely difficult. I mean, I've had personal experience with the
Chief,
problem.
other parades use Broadway. What are they doing differently than this parade is?
Well, in many cases, if you do things like the runs and those types of things, they occur on the weekend, or they occur on a Sunday, when a lot of times the businesses are closed.
I see.
So you don't have the issues that you have with this, because it's a Monday, and not everybody closes for Martin Luther King Day.
I see. Okay.
And I think one of the last things I'd like to stress is just, again, this has been in the works since October, and the promoters of this event have not made any effort. Last year, I had, at the last minute, made a call to them to try to figure out some sort of resolution and had some communication with them. But again, this year, we're finding out late in the game, literally a week before that's going to take place or thereabouts, and it barely gives us even a time to make any kind of provisions for promotion to our customers. I mean, Allen's having a big sale this weekend, before, and then additionally some of that carries over into the following day, and it's just, it's an issue that, again, we wanted to bring forth. It is specifically today geared towards this event because we have had a lot of negative impact from this one specifically, but it has also been a theme for some of the other events. Again, we welcome the Memorial Marathon, for example, has, I believe, a positive impact. It's actually brought a lot of people down there, and it's on a Sunday, so it doesn't impact our business. They do a fantastic job with cleanup and additional facilities. We've had an ongoing issue with restrooms. We're flooded with people from trying to come in to use the restroom facilities, and then again, trash that's left on premises. There was nothing in the event materials mentioning where to park. On the registration and event permit or event information, that no one's being directed to stay out of the private lots. There's no mention of use of facilities and things of that nature. So I think those are all steps that this promoter could be taking that is very simple. So
Okay.
again,
Thanks
thank you for your
coming down.
time.
Okay.
Steve?
We have one other person that's signed up to speak on this issue. Roy Stafford?
Steve Mason.
Excuse me. Good morning, Roy Stafford, 3901 South Portland. Martin Luther King Day. Wow. Black and white, what do I need to say? The celebration and the parade is taken in very deep consideration, I'm sure, by the council and all concerned as far as the routes are concerned. The event's held the same day every year. I don't have much to say in opposition to what the gentleman was saying. However, it is a celebrated holiday, so everybody can be happy. And I think Dr. King paid his dues to have that holiday. So I'm in favor of whatever the council decides as far as rerouting next year to appease the merchants in that area. And I was just wanting to speak in behalf of every African American that celebrates that day. And we are thankful for it. That's all.
All right. Thanks, Roy. All right, we're on item 8C. Steve, you want to speak? You can.
I'm sorry, I'm in a Boy Scout meeting. My name is Steve Mason. I'm a property owner at 9th and Broadway. Also, I'm the vice chairman of the Automobile Alley Association. This morning, I'm not speaking on behalf of the association, though. Broadway's a great street, and, you know, it's where the streetcar should be. It's where the marathon is. It's where the lights are. It's a great place for us to assemble as a community. I personally think it's a great place for parades also. The challenge is, like so many things, as our core keeps developing, is how do we balance things? And I think, and I know the city's been working on it, I know Downtown Oklahoma City Inc.'s been working on it, of kind of the participation amongst all these entities, so what is fair use of our streets? I hope that the parade will continue this year, and I hope that the city will just keep working towards good solutions. And, you know, I'm proud of our retailers. We've added 5 retailers down there this year, and it's very important. And we don't want to put them out of business, but it's just that balance of retailers and parades and public assemblies and all that. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Meg, you want to make a motion?
I would like to have.
Okay.
You know, this is a very sensitive issue, and I'm not going to take light of it, because I know one thing, that when I walk into any business and they are trying to do business, I'm respectful of that business. And I also know that when I'm face to face with any person that's African American and they hear this conversation about today, they want to know, what did you say, what did you do about Martin Luther King? And I'm not going to get into one side of this without talking about the totality of it. This has been an issue that I think we all know for quite some time in reference to complaints. I think we have used fear and tried to hide behind the reality of what's really there. And it wouldn't take but a lot of compromising and sitting down with everybody to understand that there is a way to make what is being done continue to recognize the purpose of the celebration. I think we put an undue burden on our police department. I think we put an undue burden on our staff. But I think sometimes that undue burden is because we haven't taken the amount of time that's necessary to bring everybody to the table, to sit down and try to work out the various components as it relates to the parade itself. There was 3 or 4 years ago, a child was almost killed. There has been some very serious safety issues in reference to the vehicles that's in the parade, in reference to children running out, grabbing candy, or being thrown to them. And we know that. And at the same time, it seems like we wait until 2 weeks before the parade to start really looking at the issues that's necessary, that we know that we have a history of concerns that we could be working on a year before, bringing everyone to the table to sit down and try to see how we can compromise some of these issues for the benefit and the concern of everyone. And by no means do I think that anyone in here would downsize the importance and the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. And to some degree, if we accepted the philosophy of him, then we wouldn't have to be addressing this issue as a particular day. It would be the everyday, philosophy of everyone in reference to the way we treat and respect each other. And I think it goes directly to that. How do we treat and respect each other as in reference to conducting the parade, and in also being mindful of the citizens and the businesses, and also the government's duty as it relates to our services. People at the parade has brought complaints to me about the lack of services. There is no porta pots. There is no, services that, children can go to the restroom, the bathroom, and so forth and so on. And I think some people expect that if you're going to have a parade, then we're supposed to provide all of that. Whose duty is that? Who's supposed to provide that? And, when you had the issue of the young child that got hit by the car and those concerns, there was the cry, well, that's the city's fault. Why didn't you have enough police officers out there? Why didn't you stop them from doing this? And so you can see that we have a huge issue of different concerns that I think that we could all just, a year before this parade is held, that we could sit down and start talking about, some of the concerns that could make this whole event better. I have asked staff a long time ago, and again, all I got was the same thing that we're getting here today. 2 weeks notice of the route, and that's it. And now we have, people who are coming forth finally and saying, these are some of the problems that they're having. At this point in time, I have had absolutely no meetings, not one meeting with anyone from staff in reference to this. But I guarantee you, today, this evening, and today after, everyone in Northeast Oklahoma City that respects this parade and may attend this parade is going to call Councilman Skip Kelly. Why? Because I'm the African American that sits on the council, and they're going to directly relate the fact that Martin Luther King, black, African American. And so these are some of the issues that we have to be mindful of, but at the same time, I'm not afraid of addressing the issues that need to be addressed. And I don't think any of us should be. But I just think that we have to be, willing to sit down and have those, open conversations about the totality of the whole event. And I just wish that, that there was someone that was from the parade that could be here, because I don't want to make this sound like it's a one-sided issue. And the history and the legacy of the African Americans' trials and tribulations in Oklahoma City, and having the opportunity to recognize the importance of Martin Luther King, I'm very, very supportive of that. And at the same time, you know, I don't understand why, if they got notice if there's someone that got notice of the agenda today, that this was on the agenda, did they receive notice of it?
Mayor and Council, Josh Ryan. I actually am the event permit coordinator out of Public Information and Marketing. I've contacted the MLK Coalition directly by email, letting them know, and I spoke actually this morning with Roosevelt Milton with the MLK Coalition, that this was on the agenda. It was sent to them last week when it would be on the agenda, that someone could be here to speak about the permit and about the event. So yes, they were contacted.
Well, how many meetings was had? I mean, how many meetings did we have with the parade coordinators and the business community and staff and public safety as it relates to this? Do you know?
A lot of the communication about the parade route was actually filtered through me. I started in late October as the event permit coordinator. And their actual change in the parade route didn't occur until much later. I think they actually started expressing additional concerns about it around December. And then as we continued to kind of talk about that and explore what their problems were with the route that we suggested that actually came down Robinson, portions of Robinson, went over to Walker, and actually came by City Hall right here, they expressed concerns that was not a route that they felt was historically significant for them, and so that's when the change took place on the route. Now, as for a meeting, I can facilitate that after the event this year, put that together, and anyone concerned, Bricktown Association, Automobile Alley, anyone that would like to get together with the MLK Coalition, I can facilitate that, get everyone in the same room, and when all of that information is really fresh on our minds about what took place in the event this year, we can hash all of that out and get all of those considerations on the table to change for next year.
Councilman, we've known some concerns with the parade route over the years. We've heard some of the concerns from the property owners out there over the years. Josh worked very hard over the last several months to come up with an alternate parade route that would work, and trying to address those specific concerns and traffic issues and what was going on the days of the events, working around the bus transfer station and those type of things, and came up with, I think, what from the staff standpoint thought was a reasonable alternative, and that was presented to the organizers of the parade, and it was rejected because of the fact they did not believe it was historically significant or it was too much of a change for them. And so we did try to do what they wanted to do, and it was rejected by the parade organizers.
I think given the short time frame we're working under today, and that I will make a motion to approve the permit, but I really want the record to reflect that I'm extremely disappointed that the parade organizers are not here today on this important day. I want to thank those that are concerned about it for coming down and expressing some of the issues that we have had in the past. It takes courage to come down and do this, and I'm very grateful for that. And I would like to request that immediately after the parade, we do sit down with a group of the organizers and the property owners in the area and try to understand, this is an important event for the city. I think everybody is very respectful of the reason we have this parade and want to make it work.
I think myself, police special events, we'd all be more than happy to facilitate that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I appreciate that, and so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve this today, but that we do have some work to do.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Cast your votes. Permit is passed unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Item 8D has been struck. Item 8E is an opportunity to enter into executive session to discuss the water issues.
No new activity, sir.
All right. How about a motion then? Strike. Cast your votes. Item is struck. Item 8F is an opportunity to go into executive session to discuss the performance of the municipal judges. Mike, we have a motion and second. Cast your votes. and we'll move into executive session a little bit later on that item. Item 9 is items from council. Skip, you want to get started today?
I would just like to mention, Your Honor, I'm going to say, Mayor, that in light of our last conversation and debate, not really a debate, but I hope no one takes it that the Martin Luther King celebration in that day should have any underlining disrespect in reference to the city of Oklahoma City's and the navigation of where the parade should be. But I truly believe that we've got to have, more policies as it relates to programming and not just continue to take matters as ad hoc sometime, that just because that's the way it's been, that's the way we're going to continue to be. And by no means do I think that setting some true policies as it relates to businesses' concerns, as it relates to the coordinators and the organizers of the parade itself. But one of the things that has been a real serious concern to a lot of people is the endangerment of a lot of children as it relates to some of the parade activities. And if you have one child that's hit by a vehicle or one child that is hit by a motorcycle, that should be enough to set some new policies and new standards as it relates to the safety of individuals that are going to be there. And I think it is some of those concerns that has been a paramount issue with a lot of individuals. And so I just think that, looking at this from a total perspective as it relates to safety, as it relates to route, as it relates to businesses' concerns and public safety issues is very important as we go forth. My other concern is that the zoning and notice of zoning issues. I have some citizens who have contacted me that live off the Northeast 10th Street and the Garden Days, Garden Oaks area, and they have been very upset over a zoning notice that they received from a record service that presently has a presence in the area. I have been told that they are operating in an area that is not zoned to the extension of their business, and as a result of the notice that's been circulated out to the community, a lot of senior citizens and elderly people that live in that area are very frightened and upset over the continuation of this operation. And I'm not speaking to try to suppress the growth of a business, but I think that the way we contact citizens sometimes on these rezoning programs is just disingenuous to the respect of those individuals and where they live, their neighborhood, their community, what they put into their homes, and then to be subjected to these fear issues of what's going to happen to the area without having an opportunity to come down or sit with someone that's the applicant to give them an explanation as to what is really going to happen. I had a conversation with a lady last week, and she just thought that they was getting ready to take her home. These notices go out, and sometimes they were just placed on people's doorstep. They didn't receive it in the mail, and then they got secondhand information from another residence. And when you look at the zoning, the notice of these rezoning, I, as an attorney, and many lawyers, when you look at this, you really can't figure out what is really the point. It's not presented in a layman's way of understanding what is really going to happen. And I think that we need to have a better communication to the citizens when there is going to be, when there's an applicant and there's a notice, and I know that the legal requirements in reference to sending out the notice and legal description But I think we as a city have a duty to try to be more informational kind to the citizens in that particular area. And one of the individuals that I can tell you that came to my office last Tuesday was Mr. Tim Tolliver. I don't think there's too many people that know something about city government than Mr. Tim Tolliver, having worked here at the city of Oklahoma City for over 30 years. And this man was in tears, along with several other people who had called me about this project in the Garden Oaks area. And I think that if we're going to have these type of zoning notices, we need to have a program where we bring citizens into a meeting. And I'm not talking about the zoning, the planning commission. I think that there should be some contact with these citizens by staff, with someone, a representative from the applicant, to have a sit-down meeting with these individuals in their community so they can have a full, basic understanding of what's going to happen and what's going to be the negative or the positive impact as it relates to their neighborhood. And so that's, first of all, I know that by law there is a standard and there is a legalese that you have to submit. But at the same time, I think there's a better way of sitting down and having a discussion with the citizens so they won't have this fear about how their community is going to change.
All right. Meg? Hey, David?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just two quick things. First, congratulations to Alicia Clifton, who was the second runner-up in the Miss America contest on Saturday. She's a former Miss South Oklahoma City, for those who may not know that, representing South Oklahoma City very well Saturday night. Secondly, the discussion about Martin Luther King's Day, I think is important. We sometimes forget how important Dr. King was with his methods of identifying changes that needed to be made in a peaceful setting. And if you read some books about him prior to being as involved in the civil rights actions, back when he was just a minister, there's a book, A Knock at Midnight, and a couple others. You get a great understanding of his background and his philosophy on how to identify things that need to be changed, and then the approach that he believed was the best approach to push forward those changes. There's a lot we all can still learn from his philosophy and his efforts to bring forth the problems that the country was experiencing back then. So I do appreciate the discussion today, and I hope we don't lose sight of why we do celebrate Dr. King's birthday. Thank you.
Pete?
Mayor, a couple things. One, with regard to the MLK parade, I would hate to just single out that parade for an exit interview. I think unless there's some other motivation for the concerns, I would think the concerns would be across the board. I think it wouldn't be bad to adopt a policy where we reviewed every one of these permits afterward to see what happened, to see if we can make them better. I hate to single out just one to do that with. I think there's a connotation to that that I find a little bit distasteful. But I think every one of them should have it would be logical that they would all have the likelihood, at least, of similar kinds of problems for retailers and business people. We ought to review each one of them afterward to see if we can make them better. Just a thought.
Okay.
Second thing is the Water Trust today is most likely going to issue water conservation rules for the city. Ever since we had to do it last year, we've considered doing it, and I believe that we're to the point that we've got to do it, given the circumstances, given the drought. Doesn't look like it's got an end to it. None of the predictions that we have for the future indicate it's going to end in the foreseeable, predictable future. We're getting ready to take a release from Canton, and if we do that, or when we do it, it's likely that it will cause a tremendous impact on Canton Lake. In fact, there is a prediction that if we take the amount of water that we're legally entitled to take, that Canton will be reduced into 3 pools of water, not one lake, but it will be reduced into 3 pools in the deepest 3 places. The fish kills are estimated to be very, very high, and I think we just can't. Everybody probably has seen in the newspaper where the city of Norman has got congressional approval to take water, or actually buy water from us, out of the Atoka pipeline, which will put a further stress. We're in a situation now where Hefner's at least visibly very low. This summer, Draper was at all-time lows. It wasn't really caused as much by the drought as it was by the fact that we were repairing the pipeline, but the lake was the lowest it's ever been since it was full. It's not close to being full again. And the pipeline from Atoka to Oklahoma City is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, wide open. And now Norman needs water. Thunderbird needs water just like all the rest of us do. But I think it's going to be imperative on us as we go on into the future to permanently look at water conservation. We've got to do it. I don't think it's not a question of whether we have any choice about it or not. Anybody who knows much about Bermuda grass knows you don't have to water it every day, and lots and lots of people do with treated water. And I think the Water Trust is going to take that step. I wanted to say something about it today out from the Horseshoe, because I think it's imperative that we get that information out and an explanation as to why we feel like we have to do it. It's not that we don't have enough water to keep doing what we're doing. It's just stupid to keep doing what we're doing. We can't justify the continued waste of treated water.
If I could just add a couple things to that. We're in the 3rd year of a drought, and I'm hard-pressed to say that it's a crisis situation, but it's a serious situation. Lake Hefner is at I don't know if it's a historic low, because I don't know if we got all the records back in the 50s. The 50s had some pretty serious low points, but it's a significant low point for Lake Hefner. It's the lowest it's been in the last 25 years. Our withdrawal from Canton will put Canton in the lowest level it's probably ever been in. And we have the legal right, clearly the legal right to take the water. That's not the issue. One thing I do want to point out is that we don't take the water from Canton, nor have we ever taken the water from Canton for recreational purposes at Hefner. We've never taken that approach to bring it in so we can sail at Lake Hefner. We've been very good stewards of that resource. We take it at, I think, good times. We make sure that the watershed, the banks are as wet as we can to maximize the amount of water that we can recapture as we release it from Canton to come down. But Canton's going to be impacted by this. A couple of other things that the water department's doing is one thing is they're making a movement to producing more water at Lake Draper and less water out of Lake Hefner. Lake Hefner is filled from the water from the west, which comes down the North Canadian River, and from the Lake Canton area. And that's where the severe drought is. There is a drought in the southeastern part of the state, but not to near the degree that we're having on the western part of the state. So our lakes, Lake Atoka and Lake, the McGee Creek Reservoir are down, but not down to the levels we're seeing on the western part of the state. So we'll be taking water up, and at the same time, we'll be producing more water from the Draper side of things than from the Hefner side of things when we can. We can do that for the majority of the year. During peak times, we'll have to ratchet up Hefner to our normal levels on that. We did some rehabilitation to the pumps, our big pump station, taking the water up from McGee Creek and Atoka a couple of years ago, and shut those pumps down for quite a while, and it drew Draper down intentionally to a historic level. Now, had we known that there was going to be this 3-year drought, we probably wouldn't have chose that timing to do so, because it isn't the best time to have Draper down at the same time that we're having the drought on the western part of the state. But we can't go back. And so we're trying to balance and manage those the best we can. And again, Atoka and McGee Creek are down some, but they're not down to the levels that we're seeing on the western part of the state. And it's not, Norman has already done some type of water conservation techniques. Other cities in the metro area are considering it, and a lot of the cities down in the Dallas metro area are doing some type of water conservation techniques at this point in time.
One of the ramifications of Oklahoma City putting restrictions on our use of treated water will be that all the cities that buy from us will have to do the same thing. That's one of the conditions of the sales contracts that we have with all of our surrounding cities that buy from us. So it won't just impact people that live inside the city limits. It'll impact anybody that buys water from us also. So, it's just one of those things we have to do. We can't, when it rains in Oklahoma City, it doesn't matter. When it rains in Atoka, when it rains at Canton Lake, it matters. We can get a lot of rain here in Oklahoma City. It won't make any difference at all in our water supply or significant. It'd have to rain a foot before it made a difference. But when it rains 6 inches in Atoka and it rains 6 inches in the Canton Basin, it makes a lot of difference. So it is something that's time has come. In fact, I think if we'd had the 2020 foresight, known the extent of this drought, we'd have done it 5 years ago, probably, and made it permanent. Not this is an emergency, because we're not in an emergency with regard, as Jim points out, we're not in an emergency with regard to our water supply. We have adequate water, but we are in a. It's almost a moral question as to whether or not we continue to use it the way we use it, without regard to the impact that it has on ourselves, all the communities that buy from us, and the communities that where the rainfall happens, and we just have to do it. So better do it now than do it later.
How many communities buy from us?
A lot. It's over 10. It's Norman, Moore, Yukon, El Reno, Mustang, the Village, War Acres, Edmond, Piedmont, a lot in the area.
More.
Yeah, more.
I mean, it's a big number. So, but I just think we just need to do it and move forward and accept it as a permanent way that we're going to use water in Oklahoma City. There may be some nanny state kind of comments about what we do, but I mean, one suggestion has been that we advise restaurants not to serve water with your meal unless it's requested. And it sounds like a small thing, but you think about how much water just sits there on the tables every day and is poured down the drain. It's treated water.
We need to encourage people to drink water. It's not the drinking water that we're concerned
I understand, but we don't
watering your yard every day.
We don't need to waste and we are wasting
a little bit overkill.
Millions of gallons of water.
All right. I don't want you stopping restaurants from giving water out to people. Okay.
Well, along that, before we leave that subject, I think it would behoove us to, if there was some way to put together some information or a program and ask the citizens this year, maybe this is the year they don't do a lot of flower planting, or maybe they try to understand what's going on and take some of those concerns seriously. But a comment I get from a lot of people, and it's also one of my pet peeves, are the commercial users that run those sprinklers. We're in the dead of winter, driving in this morning, and there were sprinklers running. And all they're doing is creating a skating rink on the streets. And in the middle of a rainstorm, you can drive down there and you'll see commercial properties and their yard sprinklers are running. I don't know. Somehow we need to take a more proactive approach to those people that won't take the time to regulate, even when they shouldn't. Even when we're not in a drought, they don't do a good job of regulating when they need water and when they don't need water. And I think that's something we should look at. I know you're going to tell me it's going to take people to go out and regulate it, but I still think that some of the blatant people that really misuse that, we need to deal with them somehow.
Okay. Well, we all have different levels of access to the media. We can make this as part of our talking points going forward. Just responsible use of the water. As it's been stated here, there's no emergency. We have plenty of water, especially from a legal standing. But as Pete points out, there's a moral implication to this too. Just because we have the right to all this water doesn't mean it's a good stewards of the resource to use it. Larry? On a
Thank you, Your Honor. A couple of things. What Skip was talking about earlier about notifying citizens about zoning, Jim, my planning commissioner, Buck Irwin, sent me an email this week, and I'm not sure, I haven't checked this out, but if you would, or maybe Bob would speak to it, he was telling me that the first time he hears of a potential zoning many times is when the notice actually goes out and not when the notice goes out to the people 30 days before the meeting goes on, but he hears about it when it appears on his agenda for the coming planning commission meeting. Is that true? Do we notify our planning commissioners when the notice goes out to the residents, which is 30 days before when it comes to commission?
Not typically. We have what we do is development review forms, which is basically a map and a brief description of the case that we send to the council. We could do that, send it to the planning commissioners beforehand, but typically they don't get notice until we send the packet out the week before the meeting. So that's correct.
Well, would you take a look at it and see if the planning commission would like that? Buck would like that, advance notice, so that when the citizens started calling him, at least he would have some understanding of what was going on. And that would be in addition to what Skip was talking about changing the legal to more understandable language as a way of notifying people.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. That's typically, the applications are filed about 30 days. The notices, or the development review forms, go out about 20 days prior. So I think that we can do that, but I'll talk with staff.
Thank you. And then I had the privilege this week and last week, and David was also involved in some very exciting discussions out at the airport on the potential development on the east side of the airport, not only for aviation purposes, manufacturing and distribution there, but also a retail and office component. And that planning is moving forward, and that looks like it's got some real potential for the future. And I'd like to congratulate the Friends of Northwest 10th Street. I was privileged to be able to sit in on their directors meeting last night, and they continue to try to bring resources to bear to resolve some of the challenges along Northwest 10th Street. They have classes going at night for adults. They have a very exciting Saturday picnic planned for the people out there, with all types of events to involve the children, to give them some encouragement and also give them some education. So my hat's off to the Friends of Northwest 10th Street. And again, thanks to the Friends of the Windsor Area Business Group for spending the time to come down today and to continue to support the strategic initiative to redevelop that area. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ed? All right. Gary, anything else?
Just a quick note for the viewing public. Councilman Ryan continues to have some health issues, and I think he's going to miss a couple more meetings, so he's not off vacationing somewhere, and I wish him a speedy recovery.
All right. Thanks for bringing that up. City manager reports.
Yes. This morning we have a presentation about the Chesapeake Arena Customer Service Survey. We have Russ Simons, and he's with Venture Solutions Group, and his title is Chief Listening Officer, and I've never known anybody before who's a Chief Listening Officer. So with that, Russ.
Thank you, sir, and good morning. It's a pleasure to be in front of you today to tell what I think is a very good story about the quality of the customer experience at your arena, at the Chesapeake facility. We'll be calling up a PowerPoint presentation here. As was indicated, I am the Chief Listening Officer. I'm an individual with over 30 years in senior positions in public assembly facility management, and when I became a consultant, I remembered what had happened to me when I ran these buildings on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of people wanted to tell me what they thought I should do. And I made a personal and professional commitment to say that you better start by listening to what people have to say before you start doling out advice. And appreciate that very much. Our core services focus on what's called guest experience benchmarking. You might know that as mystery shopping. We do a lot of facility condition analysis. That would be creating a capital expense matrix for capital spending on a go-forward basis in all kinds of arenas, stadiums, and other public assembly facilities. Lots of operational design, a core practice in safety and security, emergency planning, crowd management, and, as I mentioned, capital expense modeling. Our clients include some of the ones that are listed here. We tried to give you a balance between all of the major professional sports leagues, a lot of collegiate. We've been doing business in and around Oklahoma City for quite a long time. We've been working with the University of Oklahoma for over 10 years. And with my previous firm, we did a lot of work out at the State Fairgrounds here as well. So always happy to come back to your fine city. We do a lot of work in retail and with universities, colleges, all the way down to high schools as it relates to public assembly facilities. For you, we developed and executed a guest experience benchmarking or mystery shopping program for the Chesapeake Energy Arena. We look annually at the Chesapeake Energy Arena and we compare to 4 other NBA facilities. This is the 5th year that we've been doing this program. So if you look at the next slide, you'll see a sampling of the other NBA facilities that we have assessed as a part of this program. These are the key things that we look at, having to do where we break down the experience, which begins when people start thinking about whether or not to attend an event or a game at the Chesapeake, all the way through when they would exit. And I've broken these down for you in a way that can help tell the story. We have a scoring system. It's a 5-point scoring system. When we go to 1, it is an area that might require immediate improvement. If during any of our assessments we notice something that was a safety or security, we would reveal ourselves. There's usually one senior member of staff wherever we go that knows that we're on site. So if it was safety or security, we would immediately reveal that and bring it to the attention of the operators. Generally, we are hidden and look like the fans that are attending a game. 3 is the expected condition. It is what you would expect based on training, your goals and objectives for performance of the facility. It's a physical condition as well as the performance of the people who are providing the work. And 5 would be really exceeding beyond any reasonable expectation the experience that one would have at a facility. So in the receptionist, you can see some of the key points. We are really talking about, even in today's electronic world, how important it is for us to be able to service one-to-one communication with people who have questions. And so we want to talk about friendliness, and we want to talk about vocal clarity. Does the actual system work in the way that's going on? Can you get your questions answered? And we also look very carefully about referring to websites, because this creates an environment where people get more comfortable getting easy electronic information on a go-forward basis. So in our results for this year in the receptionist, you have consistently had very nice people who, and I think it's reflective of your community overall. They genuinely want to help you. They're knowledgeable about what's going on, and even beyond just the conditions at the arena, but also if you had other questions about what goes on or what types of opportunities there are in proximity to the arena if you were a visitor or a guest. What we see here is in the last year that we completed, which would be 2011-2012, the lighter color on the left represents the Chesapeake Energy Arena, and the other color is the average of the other 4 arenas that we assessed in that given year. And you can see that in every category, the Chesapeake Energy Arena either performs at or outperforms in the area of receptionist. In addition to that, what we did is we took, there are a lot of subcategories in every one of these items. And so if we can go to the next slide, please. What we did is we took the blended average on a point basis for all of the different things that we evaluate for a receptionist and in the following categories. And you will see here that the Chesapeake Energy Arena really does stand out with regard to friendliness and comfort in terms of talking to people, live people. We also look at the websites of all of the places where we assess, and we're interested in things like ease of navigation, visual appealing, can you purchase tickets, how fast do the pages transition. These are far more important perhaps to people who are 18 to 34 than they may be to me, and so I do it myself, and we also have some younger people who evaluate it to a different standard. Application of social media is obviously more and more important today. Next slide, please. And here's just an example of what some of the competitive websites looked like in that year. And it's not so much about comparing the look and feel to any individual website. It is really, we can go to the next slide, some of the key things. On the left-hand side, we rate you very highly with regard to all of the different ways from your website that you can, no, back one. Yeah, thank you. All of the different places where you can benchmark and share. In addition, we have access, and we search social media prior to and just after games, Twitter and Facebook, about what kind of comments people are making about their experience, and you find a lot of activation from the team and the facility with regard to upcoming events. You find people who are looking to trade or transfer tickets and that type of thing. On the right-hand side, on facility apps, you are one of the few teams right now that doesn't have a dedicated app, and it's one of our recommendations, as it is the kind of thing that customers are expecting as on a go-forward basis. And it's illustrative of that it's not just trying to find everything be the best it can be. When we find things that we think can offer improvement or improved experience, we pass those on. And in our experience over the past 5 years, those are well received and activated as appropriate. Next slide. If you look also here, you can see that the performance in this area against the 4 other teams in the last review, really quite good. Lots of times I have people think, well, 3, that looks like it's average, and I'd like to caution you about that thinking, because it really does mean that you are performing to the expected level, and that is actually quite good in our business overall. Next slide. Once again, in the blended points, based on all the categories within this, the Chesapeake Energy Arena performs outstanding. For ticket windows, we look at, are we greeted? Does somebody look us in the eye and welcome us to the facility? Are they wearing a name badge? What is the general appearance? What can you see, not just to where the ticket seller or will call person is sitting, but what's behind it? What's the condition of the counters in the area that they're in, the cleanliness of the glass, and overall courtesy? And you will see by this chart that, once again, this is an example. Actually, go ahead, stop there for a second. You can see that you approach, you have smiling faces, the conditions are organized, and there's a lot of staff. It's well lit. These are all kinds of things that we look at in terms of the overall categories. And once again, performance is very good for Chesapeake Arena against the comparable database, and the blended scores, again, very high. We look at the entry. It's approach arrival, entry, ticket scanning, and bag and article search. And so is it clean? Is it well organized? And what kind of equipment is being used? Once again, we're high on greeting. We're high on eye contact. We're high on being able to feel like that you were welcomed. It is a significant decision to not only to choose to spend your disposable income on coming to the facility, but also the time it takes and organize to get there and go to an event. So all of these things are very important to us, and that the experience be efficient, and not necessarily efficient for speed, but to make sure that all of the things through this process, which would include safety and security, are being appropriately managed. And so some examples, we recommend the use of the 6-foot tables, for example, in the middle picture. This doesn't seem a lot, but in terms of the overall best practices in safety and security for an appropriate bag and article check, this is the best practice in all of the major professional sports. Some people choose for a variety of their own reasons not to use it, but you do use it, and then, in our opinion, that makes it a much better environment overall. And again, by category, you can see that amongst the comparable 4 NBA facilities in this year, you rank very high in this. And naturally, the blended comments would reflect that. Ushers and event staff, and this really goes to what I think is the core strength of what you have in Oklahoma City, beyond the Chesapeake Energy Arena, but also the culture and hospitality of your community overall. We find your people to be warm and friendly, hospitality, whatever all of those words are, and we do not find that everywhere we go. Sometimes it's a cultural thing based on the location, but it is from the time you come to Oklahoma City to the time you leave. If you don't have a good experience here, it's generally your fault. So when we look at, these are the kinds of things that we look at. If we can go to some examples of that. It has to do with people. It has to do with a genuine feeling that people are interested and understand that if you're asking a question or you look like you need help, men in particular, I might add, if we look like we're confused and don't know what we're doing, it's generally the case. So good uniforms, good people, good active hospitality. Next slide. And as you would expect, superior scores with regard to your ushers and event staff. Your people mean everything, and they make a great difference in the experience, and again, the blended score. Food service is critical to people's experience. We put a high value on having some choices. We want it to be fresh. We want it to be appealing. We want it to be, we don't want to spend our entire time when we should be watching the game standing in a line, for example. So these are the areas that we look at. Go to the scores. Here are some examples of the variety of the food service, and as you are all probably very aware of, a lot of these things have been taking place during the transition of renovation, expansion of the facility. There have been a variety of challenges over the course of the last 5 years, but still a superior blend of choices for people, as well as being clean, well-managed, and good experience, and that is reflected in the scores that you see here. Next. Condiment stands. This seems like a small item, but what we find is it's critical to overall guest experience. It's one thing to be able to get your food in the manner that we're discussing, and then if you went to dress your food in a manner that would make it uniquely yours, and you don't have a place to put the things down to work on them, or that place is not clean, or there's debris from previous users, that type of thing, it kind of takes away from the overall transaction. These are actual photos in game, and again, excellent service in these areas. I would tell you that this is an area that overall, in all major professional sports, we find the biggest lack of service overall. So it's a real pleasure to be able to see what you are able to accomplish on an event basis here. Next. Restrooms and overall cleanliness. That, again, is once you've made the decision on your discretionary income and now you're also investing your time to come to the facility, you want to feel like someone cares that you're there. You want to feel like that you're not just going to be going in there and amongst the detritus and debris of all of the people before you, or even from previous events. Next slide. If you can look, these are all in events. An active and I think caring group of people who are the staff people working in an event, the actual condition of restrooms and the spaces on the concourses. I think none of what I'm telling you right here, you don't see yourselves when you're attending events in this facility. Next. The scores are obviously reflective of that. Really, really good job overall. Overall cleanliness, when we blend all of these things together and all the categories that we look at, and it has to do with sort of the real-time comments of our staff, as a minimum of 4 people, men and women, who are circulating the building. We actually never get to see the game or the event. We're always looking at what's going on with regard to service, and we're also looking for continuity of service. So overall cleanliness is it's simply spectacular in your building, as the way we see it. Next. So we took a little chart and just wanted to give you a sense of kind of where you sat against the comparable facilities. And as you can see, in every category, you are no less than what someone has every reasonable right to expect. And in most categories, you are superior in every way in terms of the delivery of service, as was reviewed during here. Broke it down again. Next slide, please. Just to give you a sense, in that year, that's the ranking of the Chesapeake Energy Arena against the other 4 NBA facilities that were reviewed. And next slide. This gives you a sense of those rankings from 2009 through 2012. And as I mentioned, you've been going through renovation and construction during all of these time periods, which adds what can be a disabilitating factor when trying to maintain a level of professionalism, cleanliness, and hospitality for the ticket-buying public. That concludes my formal remarks, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Mayor, I think it's neat to point out that we've been rated by various groups as with the improvements we've done being one of the top 5 NBA arenas in the country, or top 7. There's been some different groupings there. And we have the team that has the best record in the NBA playing in that building. And now it's good to know that the service provided in the operations level is amongst the tops in NBA arenas too. So it's really a nice combination for us.
I think it would be valuable to add to that if you look at the latest NBA arena, it was almost $500 million for the Orlando Magic. And when you look at your investment initially and the investment in the renovations and improvements, in terms of value proposition, it's very impressive from an industry standpoint.
I think actually the Barclay Arena in Brooklyn is surpassed in cost the Orlando Arena.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Congratulations to the staff over there.
Thank you.
Mayor, another issue that's out on the city manager report, item C, has to do with the MAPS 3 park. And when we did the resolution of necessity to begin land acquisition, there was discussion amongst the council that, let's go forward with the land acquisition on the north side. But on the south side folks really aren't ready to do that land acquisition. And we put a moratorium in that we wouldn't go after that land except for voluntary people who want to sell prior to July of 14. I think Councilman White was involved in that issue. And subsequent to that, we've done almost all the land acquisition on the North Park, except for a couple of tracts that are in condemnation right now. And it's the belief by some, particularly the MAPS 3 Park Subcommittee, led by Kim Lowe, who's in the audience this morning, that things are changing. It's really time to probably go do the land acquisition on that south side of the park, and we should go do that. And so I thought it was presumptuous for me to come forth with a resolution different from a resolution passed by council. So I'm putting this out for discussion this morning based upon the recommendation, again, of the MAPS 3 Park Subcommittee that we go forward with changing that and beginning, bringing back a resolution that will allow us to begin land acquisition on the south part of the park.
If I could maybe just make a quick comment, I certainly get a lot of feedback from citizens, and in particular, I would say the folks at the memorial who've been really concerned about people getting off the new I-40 so much further south and driving up Robinson, which isn't necessarily the easiest path, but a lot of folks seem to do that. And that south part of the park is really blighted. And so I would support, we've obviously got the dollars available, so I would certainly support any actions to go ahead and begin to acquire that and maybe just clear off some of it and begin to address some of the blight issues.
Okay. Got Larry, and then...
Yeah, since this was first brought to my attention, Your Honor, I've checked with a number of people, and they assure me that if we were to allow the acquisition of land south of I-40, that this would not affect us monetarily, and nor would it affect us in progress on the upper part, that we could do this and get this done and clear that land, as Meg was saying, and alleviate a little bit some of the eyesore. So based on the information I had, unless somebody out there has got some conflicting information that has not been given me, and I see David Todd shaking his head no, I think we ought to just go ahead and let him do it, because it should not affect any other MAPS projects, nor would it affect the park, is what I'm told.
Yeah, I agree completely. The reason for the resolution in the first place was to give people that operated businesses there a sense of certainty with regard to how long they could continue to be there. And I have a constituent that operates a business that a portion of the operation is in the Park Take area, and then a portion of it is immediately to the west of the Park Take area. And his concern is that the two things be done together. If the urban renewal is going to take land west of the park and and MAPS 3 is going to take land in the park, he's concerned that there would be some coordination. So this was to give some kind of certainty, originally was to give some kind of certainty so people would know how long they could continue to operate or expect to continue to operate. I think that's fine. I think most of the people that are there are pretty well ready to sell. I don't think there's any reticence on the part of very many of them. There may be some on the Robinson side that have some, which I have a constituent that has one that's on the west side, and so that's how that's where my information comes from. But I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a good thing. We need to move forward with it without any question.
Your Honor, if I may, I just think by waiting, we're just going to see the price escalate, and so the longer we postpone that, I believe the higher price we'll ultimately end up having to pay, and we might as well just acquire as much land as we can, even beyond the original block area, since we're going through this purchase stage, and make it the same size as the north part of the north park.
Do we have an idea of what the amount of property that is on the south side? As far as for acquisition?
Well, it's the one block. It's between Robinson and Hudson from, I don't know, Kim, you probably have, or David, do you have an idea of how many blocks or acres that is?
Yes, sir. The lower park is 30 acres, and the upper park being 40. So it's a little bit smaller.
Okay. Thank you.
It's narrower, but it's longer.
Right. It extends from the river up to the new I-40 between Harvey and Robinson, whereas the upper park is Hudson to Robinson. But there is a strip across right there adjacent to I-40 that goes all the way over to Walker. So it's in the shape of a 7.
7?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7.
Sounds pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Back to Councilman Greenwell's comments. We are not proposing to acquire the land outside of for MAP 3 purposes outside of the Robinson to Harvey area at this point in time. That's the area that's been identified, and that would be a change in budget and scope to do that beyond that.
I understand, but it still, I think, would be a good idea. I think that area is really going to take off once we get further along with these projects.
Okay, with that, I will go ahead and bring a resolution back to council next week or two, modifying the time frame so we can begin the land acquisition. Also, Councilman Greenwell, last week or the week before, asked about sign sweeps and how your neighborhood gets signed up to do that. And we do have a report in here about sign sweeps. And Bob Tiener is here this morning to talk a little bit about the neighborhood association process.
I'll just give you a brief background on this. Currently, we do 2 citywide sign sweeps a year. It was a program we developed in 2006 to try to address the number of trash signs, litter signs that we call them. We primarily do them in November and April after elections is typically when we do it. But this program, the Neighborhood Sign Sweep, was a program, one of 2 programs we developed to try to support those yearly sign sweeps. I think Councilman McAtee was real active in getting this adopted, and basically this was an ordinance amendment that allowed us to contract with neighborhoods to allow them to pick up the signs in their general area. This program came in about 2008. Initially, we had up to 20 neighborhoods that were participating. I think that's the most that we ever had in one year. This report for 2012, we had 16 active neighborhoods. Last week, the council approved contracts for 13 neighborhoods. So what we've done since last week, we have 4 neighborhoods that we're currently discussing contracts with. It's the Walnut Creek neighborhood, JFK, Culberson neighborhood, and Harrison Walnut. So hopefully we'll be able to bring those on in the future. But basically what we do here is Charles' staff has developed a training program. We'll send out information via the city website, emails to neighborhood associations, Charles's staff attends 15 to 20 neighborhood meetings a year, and they'll provide that information. We've talked with the PIO office, and she's going to do a note in the water bills, letting people know that they can contact us and to participate in the program. We also have pamphlets that we hand out. So it's been a pretty effective program. What we do as a city staff, we pick up between 45 and 50,000 signs a year, and our annual sign sweeps pick up about 5,000. This program picks up about 1,600. So it's just part of the ongoing attempt to keep the sign clutter down. And really, if anybody has any questions, we try to, any opportunity our staff gets to contact a neighborhood association and let them know that they can participate in this program, we do it. Initially, we set up 4 different training sessions a year, but we figured out that it's better to probably be flexible, and so if a neighborhood comes on, reads the contract, and they're ready to be trained, we'll go out and meet with them and train them. So, anybody has any questions?
Bob, I do. As far as, let's say a neighborhood agrees to participate in this, so they go out after they're trained and collect unauthorized or illegally placed signs, and then does the city come around and collect those? I mean, does the neighborhood collect them and store them in some place, and then the city will come by and pick them up?
No, the part of the contract is that the neighborhoods have to dispose of them, of the signs themselves.
But there's no, they're trash, and so there's no legal requirement of any special disposition of them. So you can just throw them away. Exactly. Or recycle.
Yeah, if any of you all would like to become a trained sign picker-upper, I think I'm authorized. Can I train or can I just pick up?
You know, I don't know of anyone more qualified to train than Larry McEntee. Larry actually has specialized tools.
The staff has given me a specialized tool because you cannot get those signs that are tacked on a telephone pole down with your golf club. Do not try that. Been there, done that. But they will prepare for you a special tool. I call it a special tool. Well, my grandkids say it's nothing more than a hoe, but it's very effective. You will get a hoe, and you will get a very nice orange vest, and you can pick them up. But what I've noticed is, they mentioned last week that there's some part-time people who are going through the city picking up illegal signs on an ongoing basis. And yesterday I was driving out of the neighborhood, and I noticed somebody had gone out and plastered 23rd and Meridian with some illegal signs. Before I got back from City Hall, I noticed that our staff had been out there and picked them up. So there are other ways that are going on, and the whole purpose is to keep Oklahoma City beautiful and keep this litter on a stick off the streets.
Is there a way, is there a period of time that you grant a waiver as it relates to the illegal signs? In campaign periods, signs become a very obvious and apparent, signature all over the city. So do we waive that?
No, let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that's a very important point. First of all, most of the signs that are put out there that we're picking up are commercial activities. They're basically non-accessory signs. And so even if they're they're inappropriate. It is not illegal to put a campaign sign with permission on private property. That's legal to do it. You can't put them in the right-of-way, but you can put them on private property. So I would encourage, as we get into the campaign season, that we do not regulate message that goes out on signs. And if they're properly placed in your yard, campaign signs are totally legal. So I would encourage you, as campaigns begin, to make sure that your campaign workers know the rules regarding campaign signs.
And we'd be willing to meet with any campaign manager. We have a pamphlet like this that shows the types of illegal signs, and it also helps people identify where the right-of-way is as opposed to the private property. And Charles' staff would be willing to meet with any campaign manager or anyone that, to give them this information.
Oklahoma City messages for illegal signs that we disseminate through our Channel 20 program?
I think that there is a short segment about the sign sweep, because I know that Christie did a
We have done it in the
pamphlet.
past. I don't know if we're currently running anything or not.
I would like to see if we could update that and emphasize Councilman McAtee's as being the marshal of this program.
I do personally suspend all activity during the campaign because I don't want to be accused of pulling up my opponent's campaign sign. That is a little compromise I do make, Skip.
Is there a handout or a brochure that I can take, like when I go to a neighborhood meeting, to give to people, to try to encourage other neighborhood associations to get involved?
Yes, we have handouts that were created by the PIO office, and we can get you copies.
Get me some.
All right, we have executive session. Everybody ready to go?